a record of the delightful piece they're going to play this evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, 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 your attention, please, attention, please, attention, please.
And now the moment we've been waiting for is here.
What's up, Broji?
How's it going? Hope you guys are having a good night so far.
Doing well. What about you, Hazy?
AZ Dialects, the Schizo essay poster on Twitter, and we're here joined by our amazing streamer, a man in a bit of a transitional period. You know, all of his content currently, as it stands, is taking a bit of HRT. So he's about to illustrate to us what that's like. Broji, if you could articulate to us and the audience, what exactly are you doing, and what does your content primarily consist of?
So before this little transitionary period, it was mainly just scrambling to find a YouTube channel or videos to react to. I'm trying to get more out of that and get more into prepared content. So having a script ready, not focusing as much on chat, and just trying to make actual content rather than, like I said, scrambling to figure out what I'm going to do for the next stream day.
Are you kind of looking to get into a niche right now, or you're like a very specialty? Like some people do video essays. Other guys are like really into like playing video games. Like, what are you trying to do right now?
So mainly I'm trying to get into politics. So I'm trying to have a specific subject and then for like a month or so talking specifically about that. So basically like a video essay. Yeah.
So what made you exactly, is it just because it's a bit erratic to do it all? To be like, oh man, I gotta think about what exactly I'm gonna be talking about today, and then I gotta make content about this or that, or scrambling to have something substantive to say about any particular ongoing within the political sphere? Or do you think that your ability to be more poignant about any particular subject matter is helped out by your ability to just gather your thoughts and then provide content to your audience?
So what I found out when I first started streaming, it was just me and my girlfriend. She's always been super supportive, but as of 3 months ago, we finally had a kid, and trying to prioritize the kid over streaming, obviously the family is always going to come first. But it made it really difficult to try and figure out like a good schedule. I would end up coming home from work, and I mean, obviously, I still have to work out. I still have to make sure I give my significant other enough love and the attention she deserves, while also taking care of a child. I mean, as much as some people would like to, I'm trying to be a very hands-on parent and trying to be there every step of the way for this kid. Doing it with prepared content will make it a lot easier for me to, instead of 30 minutes before I'm supposed to start streaming, it'll allow me to be like, okay, I can make sure everything's good like 10 minutes beforehand and then not freak out about what's going to happen in my live stream.
I like that idea. More importantly, so the way this would work for you is that you would, have these segments like basically structured off. You would talk about particular subject matters, move on, and you would have it more structured as like you would have like headlines in particular for everything you wanted to talk about, and that gives a more smooth formula for you to work with rather than meandering around and not really being able to get across your point. Is that kind of like what you're aiming for?
Yeah, pretty much. It also just kind of helps with content creation in general. It makes it so that way then with the script, I can know exactly which parts I believe are going to be noteworthy, so I can make TikTok clips a lot faster instead of what my previous method was having to listen to the entire thing over and hopefully bookmark points that I thought were good.
Interesting. So Now the question for me comes up and as the following: what exactly got you into streaming in the way? I mean, granted, everyone can play video games, everyone enjoys them to some regard, but what made you want to be more engaged in the political sphere? Was it simply that you wanted to do so as you felt as though there was an emerging responsibility on your part to do so, or was it that you thought you provided something unique to the sphere that was underdeveloped?
The big thing is I think I provide something unique. I consider myself a conservative, but I'm not like a typical conservative, such as I understand that we live in a democracy, and the only way that we're going to effectively find change and figure out what's best for the country is to have some give and take on specific issues. Specifically, when it comes to like the topic of abortion, me personally, I am 100% pro-life, but because we live in a democracy, I understand the that we have to give and take some places. So if I had to like put kind of a middle ground in it, it seems like majority of Americans are okay with abortion up into the first trimester. So it seems like that'd probably be the best place to put a marker if one had to be one set.
Interesting. Now I have a question. At least I just want to fill out how you think about this. Do you
Mhm.
think that with abortion being such a strong position, do you think that if conservatives were a bit more lenient in their understanding on that, do you think they could have won more moderate or even centrist level Democrats?
Um, so it seems, yeah, for pretty much nowadays it seems like abortion is a losing issue for the conservatives. Like I said, stated majority of Americans believe that abortion should be accessible in the first trimester, whereas most hardcore conservatives say no abortion up to even if you're raped or some other sort of or um or like incest or something like that. It makes it so that way then where conservatives basically lose everybody is by not allowing those simple exceptions, which take up a minority of the cases in abortions. So
You don't mind me adding on to that too. You see in like especially early 1970s where I feel like it went from being more of like a very scientific dispute until like nowadays it went from scientific to more of a moral dispute till now it's just like a culture war thing. What I mean by like culture war thing is like I feel like you're doing more damage and losing your audience more than you should. So example, a lot of like the right wing conservative parties are like hell bent on like trans issues. And for the majority of like lay people, it's like, okay, we got that, sure. But I don't really care who wrestles who if, you know, I can't afford to live or I can't afford gas. Like, what can you do for me like that? And that's unfortunate thing of like modern day right wingers, I feel like. If we're talking big politics, like those guys are like turning it very culture issue ish, which is really bums me out. But
exactly, conservatives are really losing point on the what makes America great, and they're just focusing everything they can on culture war issues. And from what it seems like, is most people don't really care about the culture. They want they care about jobs, they care about healthcare. Um, they don't care as much about who, like you said, who wrestles who.
I think one of the subject matters I would like to touch on is that during the, a bit of a caucus for a lot of the potential candidates for the Conservative Party, a lot of them seem to be talking about just getting back to basics and fundamentals such as people's survivability, their ability to financially support themselves, and there were a growing amount. There was applaud and accolades given to a lot of the people that touched on this. Like even if the during the Ukraine war, regardless of where you stand on the subject matter. Personally, for me, I believe that we should respect Ukraine's sovereignty, and thus we should provide whatever we can to support and reinforce their ability to support themselves if we respect a country's sovereignty and they are part of NATO. But, however, one of the biggest scales of that subject matter is that most people seem to bring it back to not it being a anti-Ukraine position or pro-Ukraine position, but most people are concerned about what's going on at home, with the prevalence of fentanyl abuse, with the large abundance of people on the homeless population that is in abundance of 4 blocks alongside of the epidemic that is currently going on with drug abuse. A lot of people seem to be very much concerned about what is going on and currently within the states, and even people who do speak about trans issues, or at least give signal to the idea that they are opposed to those subject matters. Majority of the individuals seem to be more concerned with those subject matters than anything that has to do with, like, culturally speaking, subject matters like conversion therapy or like transgenderism. The conversations are, in a sense, a dogmatic prescription to some degree, but it's not what conservatives in terms of the party are immediately at. And I think most people are trying to tap into that fanaticism, since they believe that is what gave rise to Donald Trump and gave him his fervent audience. But majority of the cultural landscape has shifted so much that people are more mindful of what's going on in the immediate grounds that they stand upon. So I think that's why these sort of conversations are occurring, but that's why they're not resonating as much.
It is good that conversations are occurring too, and I like that. And that's why I try to have, like, I've been seeing more people try to have more intellectual spheres and platforms where they could talk about that, whether that be through podcasts or like what I do also on the side, like debates. Like, hell, I'm doing a tournament right now where a lot of the debates I'm covering are pretty heavy-hitting issues. I know Broji, he's in this tournament. He was going to be debating abortion as well, but yeah, some incidents happened. If Broji wants to elaborate on that.
Oh man, that irritated me so much.
Drama.
So one topic that I feel like I can debate almost anybody on is the morality of abortion. And we had scheduled out this debate. We were the last person in the first tier. So like I had done a crap ton of research for this debate, and Bunk ended up he said that he forgot when the debate was, but I'm guessing part of me feels like he just felt it was beneath him, because it was literally less than a week before we had said, okay, the debate's going to be on this day, and then it comes time to debate. One, we have a hard time getting a hold of him, and then when we finally do get a hold of him, he's out for a walk and unable to actually have a Lincoln Douglas style debate. It was just super frustrating because I feel like when it comes to abortion, I could have decimated Bunk. I've seen some of his YouTube videos involving abortion, and the big thing he does is bring up hypotheticals that literally have nothing to do with the topic at hand. I mean, how I see it is, if you're going to bring up hypotheticals, at least make them somewhat relevant or somewhat attainable, whereas he felt more on the need to bring up hypotheticals that could never exist and quite possibly were just absurd. I fully believe that Bunk is not that great of a debater when you actually look at his videos, and I think it's more so the people who he debates just are terrible debaters.
And to be fair to Bunk too, I've contacted him and I let him know, like, hey, Broji like worked really hard in this. He was like, yeah, I get it. It's like unfortunate thing. Sorry. I'm like, all right. I told him, well, although you're not in the tournament anymore, if you want to on the side, I know Broji's still willing to debate it. Even if you don't want to do it on my platform, you can do it on his or yours, but whatever ones you feel comfortable with. So he told me he is planning on getting around for that, but I kind of left it at that because, like I said, I'm busy running a tournament, my own thing. So it's like whatever's between you guys is between you guys, but I hope the best of luck for you if he ever does take up your challenge again.
So I reached out to him like shortly after, and we had talked about doing a debate or just like having a conversation, kind of like what I did with you. And he at first was like all for it, and then out of nowhere he just stopped responding to any of my messages. So I was like, okay, like, do you actually want to debate, or are you? So it was also whenever his YouTube channel got what was it? not quite banned, but he got muted for a little while to where he couldn't post anything on YouTube. So part of me is wondering if he just does it for clout rather than the actual debate or wanting to debate.
Yeah, who knows? I always have the philosophy of have the benefit of the doubt for people. So, I know everyone. Like my big philosophy. I've told you this. I've told numerous people in my tournament. Keep family and your personal life first. If that intercedes with this debate, I'm completely okay if you guys moving things around. Hell, you even told me yourself like you were having your child, and I was like, okay, yeah, definitely, it's okay to reschedule and like wait later down the road. But
And I mean, even just for the debate we just had, like I ended up having a family emergency where a family member ended up having to get emergency surgery, and you and my opponent were super sincere and like understood the situation at hand. Like I would have understood more if Bunk would have been like, "Hey, something actually came up," rather than just I forgot.
I know, funny enough, Bunk is actually going to be debating me soon, and I haven't debated in a hot minute, so I'm finally dusting off some old feathers, I guess. But it's going to be over veganism. I'm looking forward to that. So,
Oh shit! Old man's coming off of his rocket to debate
no, and
the youngins on.
it's funny you mentioned that because, like, as a little kid, I think we talked about this before. My favorite all-time fighting game was Soul Calibur 4, and if you were able to beat a certain character, like a certain, basically a perfect run, you get a secret boss, and his name is like Algol or something like that. And he's just a dude sitting on a throne, being like, "Finally, this is my first battle I've had in ages. I'm looking forward to this Russian fight." And I'm just like sitting here, like, "Damn, I've been hosting and moderating these for so long. It's like I'm time to get back in the ring." But
It's
but
the definition
yeah,
of Caesar coming down to battle the commoners. Truly the host, the host himself of the Colosseum is donning his armor,
like Mortal
brandishing
Kombat
his.
having what's his name, Shao Kahn, sit in the throne in the background of each fight, and at the end he's like, "All right, my turn." He hops in there to go against like Liu Kang or something, but. No, like I hope my debate with Bunk ends up going really smoothly. Well, like I've talked to him, he seems like he's ready for a topic, just whenever. So we're still scheduling that out, but definitely, like I hope he isn't. I don't think he's the type of guy to do this, but if he is, I hope he'd address it. Like I hope he's not dodging you or anything, like looking beneath you, because that me personally, I find that like crappy if anyone did that, but. It's not my first thought when it comes to him, but definitely I feel like he should reach out to you. That's my personal take or opinion.
Has he ever done a Lincoln Douglas style debate before?
To my knowledge, no. I checked out his YouTube channel, and it's usually like you said. He's basically just mogging on people who are like idiots, which is like I get it, you gotta put idiots in his place, but I feel like I don't want to be too harsh to judge because, like I said, I haven't seen every single one of his videos. But I have seen a clip here and there where he's like absolutely dunking on someone, and props to him. The guy's an 8, he just dunked on him. I respect that. Like, sure, putting dumbass in her place, but like I'd have to like keep going through his channel because I'm sure he has some like content where it's like more formalized.
So I've watched every single one of his debates on abortion and preparation for it. He has the one debate that comes to mind is he brings on this one guy who states that abortion is the best topic that he can debate, yet this guy doesn't know the first step in debating abortion. And so I going over the rest of his, I think that there was one abortion debate where the guy kind of knew what he was talking about, but Bunk was still able to steamroll him with really simple arguments.
Yeah, if you ever get to getting him in the future, best of luck. Let me know how it goes.
I'm hoping so. I'm probably going to end up trying to reach out to him again, just now that I'm starting up my content creation again. I want to start having scheduled stuff, like I said, so I'm hoping I can schedule him in one of these days.
All good.
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of his debates. I think he's more tempered in his more recent debates. A lot of his earlier debates were very aggro, very throw you around, go ahead and eat that cake anime. But I think a lot of his more recent debates, he's been more of a tepid individual, more relaxed, more laid back. The last debate I seen him watch, it was like a 2v2 where it was Synth and him versus someone else, and it was more tempered. I don't know what exactly some people's schedules look like, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I'll give Bunk the benefit of the doubt to say that he
I have a
didn't
lot more
try to
respect for
avoid you
Bunk
or
than I do.
evade you. But I don't think they're like afraid of. I don't think they're afraid. I just don't know how they would the schedules comport with yours. And I think that if they really want to make good on the debate, I think it would be in the best interest to definitely meet up with you and schedule a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll have a lot more respect for him if he does so.
No, I have a lot more respect for Bunk than I do Synth, at least. But the one, I'll openly say it. I do not like Synth. I think he's a scummy person, and I think he's just very online chronically to where it's like he's the stereotypical like breadtuber where it's like, let me shoot semantic games. Let me see how many words I could use in a sentence. Let me see like how much I could basically get lost in the audience, like lost in sauce to the point it's like, what are you even talking about anymore? Like, I get it. You want to be like intellectual and like use certain words, which don't get me wrong, time and a place for that, obviously. But like, if you're just like 100% doing that and then you just lose the audience, then what's the point?
Right.
But
I think she's neat. I'm just messing. I think they're part of the Crucible, and they're more of like one of those definitely akin to a lot of the aggro debaters and that sort of sphere, which comes with a certain like decorum with the debate styles. The more okay with just being a complete dick or asshole, which you definitely could lose audience members when they're talking people. They're like, all right, even if the argument with Rob Noah was just kind of like a bunch of like, all right, we clearly aren't actually arguing about the subject matter at hand, and Rob Noah is kind of a bad debater in my personal opinion. But even if you wanted to appeal to the audience, just playing shove Rob Noah in a locker probably didn't do much to behoove them to come to your side. That's all I'm gonna say on that matter.
yeah, and like a funny thing about Bunk too, actually, to get on a phone call with him, like scheduling our vegan debate, getting things in prepared, and we both ended up dealing with. I think we dealt with either the same guy or a similar dude, where they tried to make the argument that whatever the majority says is the morality. So if the majority agrees, and this guy on his debate channel, he showed me a clip. I was laughing at it. He was playing Doom, just doing his thing, and then he asked the guy a question like sarcastically, like, "Oh, so the majority says like pedophilia is okay. Would you say it's okay?" And the guy was like, "Well, yeah, obviously, because the majority thinks it's good." And he just paused his games like, "What the hell are you talking about, man?" And I was like, "That's something I was laughing at." I was like, "Good one, Bunk. Like, fucking dunk at that idiot." But yeah,
that guy was possibly, and this is the thing that made me so perplexed because every time like Bunk will lay out that's exactly what they were saying, the guy would reiterate like, I don't think you understand what I'm saying. I'm just saying like society typically understands collectively what is morally virtuous, and he's like, so would slavery be all right? And like, yeah, I guess in that sort of society. And he's like, like, why are you biting these bullets? Why are you just accepting that? That's just you
So
can reformulate. I encourage you to do so.
I understand to an extent because if you think about laws, a lot of laws are just codified morality, such as do not steal, do not kill, stuff like that. But then obviously there's some things that have never been moral, no matter even if the law permitted it, such as slavery.
Yeah, but
and I think that's what he was trying to argue.
But going along with the collective whim is not really a good like rationale for
not
your
at all.
basis as
I need
or
to
even
find
the ability to push
yeah.
back like anyone argumentatively.
If I could find a clip, I'll send it. But the guy wasn't arguing law either. He was just arguing purely the collective, like saying just a group of people disagreeing on.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
my favorite argument that is while we're on the topic of Bunk, I thought my favorite thing is that they were talking about non-consensual sex and this individual, this amazing galaxy brain individual, Flamenco, the ex-member of the Kill Stream with Nick, Ethan Ralph. One of the funniest things for me in this situation was that in this situation, Bunkhead basically asked him what is like non-consensual sex and what is like raping somebody in a situation, and he did like no, I don't think like intimidating. Like of course they got into veganism, so he was basically asking is it non-consensual sex to like forcibly inseminate a creature, or like, but he's like the thing that Flamenco decided to make his parameters was like, well, if you didn't like climax, you're not like you're not doing that. You're not forcing yourself. I'm like,
Jeez.
why is that?
What?
Why is that your threshold? Why out of everything you could have chosen? Why?
It's kind of
What?
like there's this individual. I'm not gonna name him because I'm not in the mood for him to like spam my DMs with like him like shit posting. But he's very pro utilitarian, and he tried arguing with me, like why utilitarian ethics is absolute, and I, for anyone who knows me, absolutely despise utilitarianism with a passion, and I posed him a question that he basically couldn't answer straightforward, where he was like arguing, yeah, negative harm is always bad, and if it's like neutral or positive, those are good things. So I'm like, okay, let's say, and this, you like hypotheticals, let me give you a hypothetical. There is a guy, like some college frat bro, walking home from a bar at night, and he sees a woman passed out in an alley across the street. No cameras there, no one's around to witness, no one's going to see it, nothing. He decides to go over there and check on her, and she's blackout unconscious. She's drunk, she's still alive, just unconscious. And he ends up deciding to have his way with her. And, after he's done, zips up his pants, goes about his way, nothing happens. She wakes up the next day, has no memory or recollection of it, and goes about her day. And I asked him, like, in this scenario, she felt no negative harm, or there was no harm involved in the scenario, and no one was there to witness it, so there's no, like, trauma or anything. And overall, like, I feel like, I try to, like, do sarcastically, wouldn't you argue that's a positive good, since he was able to get his rocks off, and she wasn't able to, like, freak out or like feel any pain or anything like that, and then watching him flounder trying to defend utilitarianism in this scenario, because the utilitarian answer would be yes, this is a beautiful thing, so good, net positive benefit for everybody, and then he's like, well, no, technically, and I'm like, well, it doesn't make sense. He kept trying to add in third parties. It's like, oh, but what if there's a security camera that saw it? I'm like, well, there's not.
Oh
What
my!
if there's a podcaster? I'm like, there's not, and he's just
Yo,
floundering like a fish out of water, and I'm like, yeah, just take the L of this.
can I say one of my favorite flounderings that occurs within any sort of inquiry is when somebody basically tries to add in additional information in order to opt out of answering the question. They're like, well, that wouldn't have occurred because there was cameras around. Or is embryo in a flesh 9-month-old baby that's fresh out of the womb the same thing? Well, I don't know, but I know people who would save the babies more than the embryos. I'm like, I'm not asking it. Like I love when people do those type of things because it's very clearly that like they're trying to find any way to opt out of answering the question because they clearly feel as though they have no ability to like actually engage, or at the very least, it shows a blatant hole in this in the way of articulating their position. So I love when people do that. Like, well, there could be cameras. Like, are you trying to like argue all these other facets as a way to get away from actually engaging what we're talking about here? Because I feel like if you were to just accept the hypothetical the way it was presented, you would obviously understand where you just absolutely stepped on the garden hose. But to get back into the subject matter of streaming and all that, where do you think streaming is going to go? We have platforms like Twitch, Kick, and Rumble, a predominantly more conservative site, but it's definitely varying out to different avenues to ensure that it has a basically a variety of content to look forward to rather than just being the place where the undesirables by mainstream go to. What is your general opinion about all these sites that I just discussed here?
So when it comes to streaming, Twitch right now, and I feel like almost always will be the leader. Mainly because they've been around for years. They have a lot of the additions that people are looking forward to. Um, YouTube in my opinion, YouTube is the best for streaming, but you don't really get a lot of visibility, such as on Twitch. Like everybody knows that's the place you go for streaming. I can't think of how many people actually want to go watch somebody live on on YouTube. One thing that YouTube has that the other streaming services need to get together if they want to actually improve is the ability to rewind a live stream. That's becoming so valuable, especially to like reactionary streamers. It's kind of ridiculous that Twitch seems to be regressing in certain aspects. I really have a lot of hope for Kick, but they're still so new that they don't have any ad revenue. They don't have. They're backed by a gambling company, and there's a lot of people who are completely against gambling. So once they are actually ad friendly, I think they'll really start to grow. They also have to learn how to. The only way they're going to get ad friendly is if they start removing some people. Like they came out as a full free speech platform, but unless they expect to be dependent on gambling money, they're never going to grow past it.
I was actually going to ask a question too. I don't personally use Twitch much, but can you have like 24/7 like streaming even if you're not there? I know it sounds like a very stupid question.
So it depends. There are some streamers who will do like subathons, and for every so many subs, they'll add on time to how long they're streaming. I think this one dude's been doing it for like 3 months. But he sleeps on stream, he showers on stream, like everything he does is on stream. The real big issue that I have is when people Hassan's a really big proponent of this, is putting on other people's content and then walking away for 10-15 minutes. And then the worst part is he doesn't give the content creator that he's watching or putting on stream, he doesn't really give them any shout out. He will, I think one time he had it, the name of the video and who it was by on stream for all of like 15 seconds. But if someone were to come in past those 15 seconds, they're just like, okay, we're just watching this video, I guess. Not to mention there's
revenue from the original streamer, correct? It's not like, let's say I'm reacting to a video to get a portion of the pie almost. It just goes purely to me.
Exactly. And that's there's got to be some sort of legal standing there too, such as DMCA, because you're just completely ripping off someone else's content and gaining the revenue from that, where the person who whatever video is being watched is they're losing out on all the people who potentially would go watch the original video. Like I understand reacting to videos, but you either have to be there completely adding some sort of your own input, or you have to actively say, hey, new people, we're watching this video, this is where you can find it, this is the content creator.
Or even better, ask the original content creator, like, hey, are you okay if I react to your content? You know?
Oh, 1000%.
Because I know there's tons of like big streamers who I'll get into later, but the XQC drama going on right now. But yeah, I'll go ahead and let AZ talk because I saw he's about to say something.
Currently, as it stands right now, there's been a lot of reaction content that exists on the internet, and ever since Jinx was someone who grew in prominence for saying little to nothing when it came to his videos, but simultaneously having a myriad of content to react to, most people argue that the value of a Jinx sort of content channel was more of a merchant, an individual who amassed an immense amount of wealth due to him being stunned. Anyway, the question that is usually prompted by these channels is usually, what is the personality versus the content in question? Like, there is definitely YouTubers, or at least watchers of YouTubers, streamers of alike, that would love to see someone like XQC's reaction to a particular type of content because they want to know the insights. Due to their wheelhouse of expertise, they naturally want to see what type of particular insights that cannot be provided by the common person that can be informed by watching this particular YouTuber or streamer. But in situations like Hassan, where he's just leaving the stream on, people often question why even have it on. But some people even make the arguments, as HIE did, I think back in 2017, where he argued that watching the content with someone else is like having a friend there. Even though he then caveated it, or at least argued that it was sad that someone had to do that, that is a valid reason that some people might do this, that some people find a community of streamers, discords, kittens, and fathers that love to gather around the campfire of the social media platforms and watch it with their, Discord kittens, as they meow and call. That is definitely an avenue. But in terms of how someone might feel cheapened in terms of the content, is that usually the profitability is the question here. So now I have to ask y'all a question here. Do you believe that the issue here isn't exactly that someone's watching it, but is it more of the issue of like who's making bank? And is it more like an innate feeling of, well, this is wrong because I spend so much work on it? Is it like a feeling of unfairness or lack of is it more about profitability than actually people just watching the content? Because at times people watch content on like Discords and like collectively large like platforms like that, where they could be missing out on some views because some people are watching this with a large amount of people through one screen. So where does that line be? Is it drawn exactly? It's the question I'm asking.
I feel like it's a mix. Oh, go ahead, Broji.
I was just gonna say, I mainly think it's about profitability. So like if it's a small time streamer, even if they were to stream it, it's not gonna chances are it's not gonna go anywhere. Whereas if you have a big time streamer, especially like Hassan and whatnot, if you don't add any of your own insight to it, you're basically just re-uploading the exact same video, but you're gaining the profits from it. Yeah, and what were you gonna say, Sola?
I was actually going to say I think it's a mix of like all of what you mentioned, because a good example where I see reaction streaming done right is where they don't publish the whole original video. They publish highlights or clips of it, and they say like, hey, check out the original guy, but they also like give their expertise or opinion on it. A good example, if any of you guys are familiar with the video game Dead by Daylight, one of the biggest streamers for Dead by Daylight is a guy called Otsword, and he is basically hailed as being probably one of the greatest players in the game. They were having a tournament for a charity run, and Otsword reached out to the original creators of this tournament so he could amplify it, and he purposely only did clips to be like, hey, check out the original video. But not only that, he doubled down, and any revenue he got from that stream, he donated to the original people who made it, and I'm pretty sure he kept some donations for himself. And what I liked about it too was that him being a pro at the game, he was able to give very critical analysis on the game and explain what's going on to the average person, and like Hazy said earlier, give that expertise for that field. That's something I feel like is done right. On the opposite, you have XQC or even Pokimane. Pokimane did this too, where they would upload the entirety of the original video, put themselves in the corner of like the bomb corner of it, and every other minute they're like, whoa, wow, that's crazy, whoa. And that's the whole video is just like background, like almost like the peanut gallery, just throwing stuff around, like, and then him be like, Chad, did you see this? And it's just like the most obnoxious thing where I'm like, okay, you have a small content creator who spent not thousands, but who spent hundreds of hours probably around that time building up their channel, working hard to getting to where they are today. And then not only that, but individual videos. I'm sure Hazy could speak on this. When it comes to editing, they spend hours upon hours meticulously editing the video just for some like big account to swoop in and like, take credit of it. It's no different from like the guy who said the original joke compared to the person who heard him and said it louder and the whole class laughed at that guy. Like, it's just stealing. It's like very scummy. I don't like it much at all unless you're giving actual things to it.
I think what you said is very much a poignant criticism because most people are talking about profitability, and I think profitability is often equated to views. Well, as if there was a large channel, let's say one of my channels, Hazy Dialects, I posted my video essay on Mr. Girl, and it got seen by someone like Destiny if it can, and I would be appreciative of that because usually he would shout out that channel, inform people of my content, and that would be a big boost to me. He's not just watching all of my content like a Meat Canyon would. Like some people just watch Meat Canyon's animations, and a lot of these channels benefit immensely. Like in terms of the exchange rate, Meat Canyon isn't getting, I would say that arguably so, that a lot of these channels are benefiting far more from Meat Canyon existing than Meat Canyon is from them existing. So the trade-off is questionable to some degree. But if you're a very small channel and you get a larger channel just shout you out and watch your content, it's exposing you to a large audience of people who would watch your content. And some people might argue that there are some people who refer a video to a content creator or streamer that had no intentions of watching that content independently. That's granted, that's good and all, but still, I think that there's still some grounds in terms of uploading that content, snipping it up, and not just re-uploading the content, especially if your commentary is little to none, because at that point, it's often questioning what is the purpose of my video if it's just going to exist on another person's platform larger than mine. One would even argue that there is no reason to go to my channel. So I think even if Hassan were to leave, I think the person you were talking about was JXE, which they did give Hassan a lot of credibility to not assume that they were being malicious or misinforming the audience deliberately about the positions and arguments about why they say it's wrong. They say, hey, maybe just invite people who would love to have the content shown in the channel, just with the caveat that they do get shouted out and they do get informed to a new audience, rather than just assuming the right to do so and then apologizing afterwards, because what does it mean to apologize at that point if you know that it's something wrong and you really can't argue your position as to how it's right? The most tangible thing that I think is kind of hard for a lot of people, um am I breaking up by now?
You're a little bit choppy earlier. Keep going. You're
Okay.
it's good now.
Okay. Um, the biggest problem for a lot of people currently, as it stands, is um, usually that they don't ask for permission, and that could be a bit of an issue because no one really knows the tangible effects. Like there is no research, quantifiably speaking, that I can point to and say, here is irrefutable evidence that in fact, when you take my content and you watch it on your streams, I am negatively impacted by the potential views I could have gotten because you didn't do enough to be transformative enough, into which people would have had a reason to go external of your live streaming of it to watch my content. I like people like I Am Dante's as well. He does a great job, and people often encourage him to stop pausing the video. But then, if you want to watch the video in its original form, go ahead and watch it. You're watching it for his commentary and insight. And some people do use this medium and and other people's platforms as a form of watch-togethers, but that's not what it's for.
Right, I was kind of gonna say the exact same thing. Like, I think it's okay if streamers watch a full video and they don't even necessarily have to like snip it up, as long as they are pausing it, putting in their own insight, making it so that way then um, there's some sort of significant difference from the original clip or original video. Uh, and another group of people that I think do really well at like doing snippets and then posting their own reaction to it. Abba and Preach are really good at that. They can take a 20-minute long video, take the core out of it, and make that into their own 10 to 15-minute video.
What's the channel called?
Abba and Preach, ABA and PREACH.
Wait, you never heard of Abba and Preach? I'm surprised by that. They're some of the biggest voices in terms of just social like
The
discussions
name
on like.
sounds very familiar, is what I'm asking. I've probably seen her content before. It's just the name doesn't ring a bell off the top of my head right now.
I know we were talking a little bit about it in the debate, or right before the debate, about Destiny's wife dancing with somebody. Who she was dancing with was ABBA.
Oh, okay. And that's the person he's getting cucked with. I mean, in an open relationship with. I'm sorry.
Oh, brother, this
My apologies. That was a bit of a Freudian slip right there, gents. Like, my apologies.
in the biggest quotation marks imaginable, Freudian slip.
All right, I'm just gonna say it here. I'm gonna say it honest with you. I'm gonna keep it real, man to man. If you were in a cuckold relationship or an open relationship, as a man, I just don't. I'm sorry, I can't respect you. Like, if you can't even respect yourself enough to where you let your woman go out and sleep with other men, how am I supposed to take you serious? Like, it's just really weird, bizarre, and gross. It's just like, I don't know.
Now, what if you're allowed to go and sleep around with other females?
Even so, I'd say the same thing. Where it's like, hey, I don't respect that female as a woman. Be like, wow, you're really letting your guy just hoe up and like get out there and sleep with dudes, like, or not dudes, women, or like, hey man, if he's into that now, like, but like, it's just,
I guess it really depends on. So you have to take the actual definition of what a cuck is. So a cuck is someone who likes to watch the significant other have sex with other people. So if you're taking the actual definition of the word, I would have to defend Destiny, even though I don't agree with him on his political takes. He, by definition, is not a cuck.
well, we don't know that though. It's probably private. He's probably smart enough to keep it private.
Oh,
Like,
you got a point.
In terms of common parliaments, most people don't know whether or not we can like divine whether or not that is the case, is that he's finding some sort of sexual gratification from his wife plowing other dudes. However, most people are using it in the sense that like there's a lack of respect for one's person to allow some other guy to have intimate moments that other people find to have the utmost sacredity by having sex with them. So, like, that's usually the confines in which the word is being applied in the situation. And I think it is applicable in this way, which is hard for anyone who's completely okay with the wife being open with other people equally in the sense that they are. I think you have to just forfeit and relinquish your ability to convince people in that regard, because it's kind of hard. Usually,
I
there's
think they're
that sort of
mentally ill.
situation of,
They're mentally ill though. Like, I'm not gonna get gaslit.
I know you do.
Okay.
I'm not trying to convince you.
It was like, I don't understand. I'm not gonna get gaslit to believe this is okay or normal. Like, I see white people walking their fucking children on a leash and having dogs in a stroller, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm not thinking this is normal either. People are like, oh, it's completely okay. My child's safe. You have your child on a leash, ma'am, and you have your chihuahua in a stroller. A $350 stroller. And it's just like, holy shit.
I will say
that like it's harder to in terms of where they stand in that confine of open relationships, people are just going to be diametrically opposed, and usually that comes from some level of intuition of how these things ought to occur when it comes to a man and a wife and the sacredity of a relationship in that regard, which I understand Destiny's reasoning completely as to why he has that relationship, but most people are going to perceive that as copium. So there's certain like spheres that you can't really
Opium on the max.
Yeah, so usually that's the case. I think it's important to understand that, like, I would never be in a relationship like that. I couldn't. For me, it's a private thing. Our relationship is us two, the unity, the duality, the yin and yang in that sort of sense. But some people are okay with that, and hey, that's just how I see it. Like, all right, if that makes you guys happy, don't.
Oh, you can be okay with it, and I'm gonna be okay making fun of you in public when you do it. That's how you're gonna do it.
No. I'm saying I would be okay with other people having open relationships. I wouldn't personally, but at the same token, I would look at them and go, hopefully you wouldn't be doing it just because you're so desperate to keep that person around, because that's what my mind goes to in terms of like an open relationship, because that's the only reason what I would have that relationship. If you ever see me do that, dump me down the streets, because
yeah, I'm gonna go to your house with a shotgun and kick out your misery. I'm like, it's okay, buddy. Look at the grass. Just look at the field, Hazy. You're like, oh, you're gonna see the flowers and the rabbits. I'm like, yeah, that's right, buddy. Look at the fields. I was like, aim them back. Oh gosh,
so I am embarrassed. Wait, what?
No, I didn't mean to cut you off earlier. Were you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say, I'm embarrassed to say I watch Destiny a lot more than I probably should. But So one thing I know for certain is he does not advocate for open relationship for other people to do open relationships. And his cope as to why he has an open relationship is because he has an issue with cheating, and his wife has only ever had open relationships.
So he went into this knowing she does this shit.
Yep.
It was her idea then. Okay, I just feel bad for him then. Like that's just
Wow.
fuck,
So he really
man.
couldn't. He has
God.
no. So this is why discipline is the reason why we're losing the West. You know, like
Oh, definitely.
Christianity is
West
lost.
The West has fallen. It's so over, guys.
It's Joe. It's truly. It's Joe over.
It's Jover. It's so over. We got a dementia puppet that's being ruled by reptile elites in the office right now. It's never been more over than it is right now. Oh gosh.
I will say that. I was just gonna say you do have a point there. The fact that the West is becoming overly sexualized definitely is being a detriment on our society.
I've said the same thing too. If like, there's a quote that sticks with me. It's like a society that holds on to nothing eventually loses everything. Where it's like if you as a society don't know where to draw the lines, like yeah, we shouldn't do this in public. Just because we could doesn't mean we should, and it's just very egregious and disgusting. It's like I've said before, like I have a very complex relationship with the LGBT community, where when I see individuals, I'm very courteous, respectful. I'm like, yeah, you alone as a sole person, yeah, you chill with me. Like I don't care if you're gay, straight, whatever the fuck you are. Like if you're just one-on-one talking, I'm not gonna like treat you like you're some anomaly. Like oh my god, look at that person. Like I don't care. I don't care what you do in your bedroom. But like if it's to the point where we have like pride parades, like in Los Angeles, there's a video of it where a guy was in a very small neighborhood, not in a city. He opened his door and the first thing he saw, mind you, neighborhood of children, were like grown men in their 40s or 50s wearing like black leather thongs, just dancing around.
Jeez.
And then I'm just thinking, this isn't in like a city. This isn't like in a very condensed urban area. This isn't like the suburbs now, like where people like children play. They're dancing around where children are at. And then to me, I'm like, that's just egregious and disgusting. Just because you could, does that mean you should? And it's like, I don't support the community as in the giant collective organization thing. But if there's an individual one-on-one talking to me, I have no qualms with them whatsoever. I'm going to treat them with the same courtesy and respect as I'm sure they treat me, because we just met each other. I don't know you. I don't know you as a person,
Mm-hmm.
That's how I view it, me personally, yeah.
As a person who's also pretty chill, pretty relaxed with the LGBTQ community, I think all of it's pretty all right. I think everyone, in terms of consenting adults, to most degrees, having intimate relationships with each other, so long as they're consenting and willing, and just not any sort of questionable genetical offsprings. I'm completely okay with you guys getting along and having a happy and prosperous relationship. That's my mostly where I stand in terms of this. But however, there is some sort of question we should ask ourselves to ensure that children aren't exposed to like extreme sexual fetishes at a early age, in which I think that would be inappropriate. There are adult days for pride parades, and there are days where kids can show up. However, in situations like those, that's very questionable, because then we often ask ourselves, did the block have a buy-in to be able to say, okay, we'll definitely be allowing you to go through here and parade around in these areas? I'm pretty sure not, which is why the immediate outrage came to be. However, in terms of the 32-6 scoops of like what is a lesbian and how many variations of that exists, I often don't touch any of that, and I think that bigger questions about gender and bigger questions about gender and the complexities of it, and what it means for somebody to have a misalignment between the brain and the physiology is very complex, and I don't think any of those complex conversations are often happening in the greatest scale of society. It's typically something akin to you know what? I think trans people, so long as they're adults, they're taking HRT, they're ensuring that they're living the happiest lives, and they're doing this exclusively for the purposes of ensuring that they can live in the body that they choose to is pretty much okay. It's akin to me if someone getting plastic surgery, so long as you're doing it in a healthy way and you're operating within the confines to ensure that you are not detrimentally hurting yourself and you're okay with these decisions. I'm completely okay with it. Uh, to have something of that nature basically get responded with, you support pedophilia or something conflated to that. The discourse as a whole is basically in the trash for me for the most part. So I usually refrain from. I'm like every time I see it happen, I'm just kind of like, you ever seen that movie where he's like roll him up? Like every time I see it occur, I'm just like, let me just back up.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. And one of my critiques for right wingers too. It's like if you jump the gun and immediately call someone a pedophile or like the entirety of them pedophiles, they're not going to get anywhere for conversation. Like, I think about, like, if someone said this to me, would I want to talk to them or speak with them? And I find that to be like, hey, that's pretty disrespectful to call, like, an entire group, like, pedophile. So, like, it's just, I don't see it as going anywhere. Like, I feel like more productive conversations, like, hey, what can we do from here and move on? And, what could we do to get these people more acclimated or treated normally in society? And for, I guess, my personal opinion, here's what I believe the LGBT community could be doing that would make at least 80% of Americans respect them more and treat them normal. First thing, ditch the pride parades, get rid of it. If you can't have BDSM shit in it, then you shouldn't have it at all. Second thing, you can move it over to more private organizations or private areas and have that for funding or charity. I know in California I saw this and I actually was able to donate some money to it, where there was basically a shelter for people like young teenagers who are like disowned from their parents in like a very aggressive, brutal situation. Because I find that disgusting that a parent would beat their kid just because they say something like that. I don't feel like that's the way to go about it. And I want there to be shelters for these people to be safe. So if like almost like a pseudo Salvation Army thing, if like the LGBT community had their version of the Salvation Army and more people were known for them, like, oh yeah, those are the guys who help, like young LGBT kids. Those are guys who help, afford, psychiatry appointments or medical appointments for young LGBT teens who can't afford it. I'd have a lot more respect for them because I'm like, okay, you're not flandering around in pride and vanity. You're going out of your way to help the people who are quiet, basically, then the people as society won't help. And I believe through these actions, you would get more of the majority of people to look at this and respect. Like, okay, they're trying to get their shit together. They're trying to live their lives just like I'm trying to live my lives. I shouldn't worry about them because they're doing their own thing. I have a lot more respect for that. But yeah, what do you guys think about that?
The crazy thing is,
Hmm.
Someone will find your tweet, quote tweet it, and then proceed to say, I can't believe this man is making a equivocation of troops, people who have fought for their lives, to people who just decided to have a depraved sexuality, stolen valor. Like, how did you get that from what I just said here?
Yeah, no, I can't wait for after this, like this podcast is flipped, and people say one thing out second, and then all they're gonna hear is, I just like the LGBT, and they pause it like that. I was like, look at this piece of shit right here. I'm like, bro, you like the whole tweet.
The worst thing is, someone will take that sort of interpretation, extrapolation from what you said. They'll get blocked by you. They're like, LOL, can't handle the truth. Like, how am I supposed to engage with what you just said here? Like,
okay, because like I genuinely, at the bottom of my heart, want to help people. Even if I don't understand people's ideologies, their way of life, I want to be there to help you. And if I know that there's nothing I can do to help or I can't understand, I want these groups of people to have other groups that can help them, that there's more assimilated to them. So, like, I don't know. That's how I'm thinking about it. Like, so for like the LGBT stuff, I don't fully understand it. It just confuses me. It baffles me. I don't get it. But I treat those people with respect. I try my best to be courteous. So I'm like, hey, I think it'd be a lot more better for your community if you did things helping each other more instead of you just dancing around half naked in the street. That's how I see it, like that,
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving my position about this.
Let's hear Broji's. Yeah, Broji said.
Broji. Now to ask you the question: do you believe that anybody under the age of 18 should be on HRT? Let's get the hardest question.
If there was a way to, I fully believe gender dysphoria is a real thing. Some people do suffer from it, both adults and kids. The difficult part is we don't know for 100% certain which kids actually have gender dysphoria. Kids are super impressionable. You can tell them that they're a T-Rex one day, and for the next week, they'll pretend that they're a T-Rex. The fact that we are simply just going off of you say you're this, therefore you're this, it's harming children. You have I don't remember the exact statistic, but it's somewhere between 70 and 80% of people of children will end up growing out of gender dysphoria by the time they hit puberty. That's an
I feel like it's
outrageous
important
number.
too, though.
What was
Like,
that?
I agree with that, and I feel like it's important though. Like, this is, I guess, my more like pushy take, I guess, and people get mad at me, especially in the right wing sphere. I am okay with those people, like let's say 15, 16, something like that, being able to at least try to see a psychiatrist and talk it out. Because I would rather they hear it from like a professional psychiatrist than them like hearing it from people on like Tumblr or something, they self-ID. I am very vehemently against self-ID. I think the concept is a very dangerous, slippery slope where anyone could be anything then.
Mhm.
That's why I like more psychiatry based, where it's like, okay, here's a neuroscience behind it, here's a professional with a literal PhD, we could talk about it. Like, but I do agree, like, I feel like a good chunk of them, like, it is something you grow out of, but I also don't want to, like, strip that from them for the people who genuinely are, you know, like, going through that, if it makes any sense.
To build off what
Right.
you just said there is that the difference here is that usually when dealing with an expert, they can ascertain more authentic evaluations of that incongruency that appears when it comes to transgenderism, rather than someone who is replicating more therapeutic or expert linguistics for the purposes of coming across as self-assured in terms of the IDing and the main populace. Where, like, to basically give I think, an adequate example of what I'm trying to describe here, someone could say something to the effect of them transitioning to another gender, and with knowing through a quick Google search of words and linguistics to often implicate the nature of their gender and ID, it can be a compelling narrative as to why they are another gender. Whereas if they were to use this with a psychiatrist, they know that all the person is doing here in this conversation that's supposed to be candid is giving somebody all the signals that would infer that they are that, rather than it being a sincere issue of where they stand, like psychologically speaking, in the physical body, or like the matter makeup of their brain. So yeah, I would highly push that the evaluation is first and foremost than just simply self ID, because then we call into question what is the reality of transgenderism and who you are as a person. I believe that is a biological necessity, that there is an element of it that comes from the makeup of the body. It's not just because if we were to forfeit any biological facets of this idea, then we lend ourselves to simply something that is a social cohesion, something of a social contaminance in which somebody is just that gender because it is more of a popularity thing, or just something that was socially influenced. And I am holistically against the belief that that is the case for the majority of transgender people. But then again, when it comes to the scope of these things, I think one of my favorite moments is like Matt Walsh, who made an entire documentary about what is a woman, and he said the people that are on HRT are like in the millions.
Yeah, that was insane. That was absolutely ridiculous. And then just to have it fact checked like 5 seconds later, just for it to be a few thousand. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's a lot, but nowhere near what Matt Walsh. Like, you made an entire documentary about this, and you weren't able to do like just a little bit more research.
He made it sound like they were under every rock, every crevice, behind every corner.
Under
like,
every rock?
Like, yeah. I just like they come out. I was like, "You got HRT?" It's like, "Whoa, where'd you come from?"
Under every
Because me
rock.
sitting on the toilet, I feel a hand like touch caress my leg behind me. You got HRT, bro? I'm like, "God!" On the toilet.
That's a good one. Under every rock. It's amazing. Oh, way to articulate it. Especially I love how Joe Rogan was just like, millions? Do you really think it's millions? hey, can we just get that? Like, he's like, okay, I can't have you say that on my podcast, and it just be something so clearly objectively not true. I'm gonna
It's
have
like
to just.
hearing Joe Biden talking about COVID numbers. He's like, oh, Americans, there's been millions, I mean billions even of like young Americans that died of COVID. We need to put a stop to this now at all costs. And I'm like, there's no way fucking you said billions of people died by COVID. There is no way. Like,
Yeah, some of the stuff I'm just like, Joe, we need you to come back to earth just a little bit. I know, like you seem like a more aficionado on the subject matter because you bought a cigar and this one crack job who is just flabbing off of the mouth. Who he is understanding of like basically the usage of like a vaccine is not all the way there because having a similar like understanding of where it started from is not basically where it is in its current iteration. But I'm gonna need you to come back to earth just a little bit when it comes to this conversation. But in terms of the discourse, I feel like it's a lot of even people like philosophy tube and talk about how it's medically gatekept as to what it means to be transgender. And I think philosophy tube is absolutely a smart person. I think they're very articulate. I think they've shown themselves to have a very strong handle on, as to what is philosophy and to make pretty good videos on a monthly basis. However, I don't think people have the same sort of philosophical wherewithal to go through that evaluation without some sort of medical upkeep. So I don't think we should encourage people to just go, well, you know, you'll just know. I
that's
think
again why I say, like, going back to what I was saying earlier, I prefer, medical route instead of self ID, because philosophy bros like philosophy tube would drop like a 2 to 3 hour long like manifesto, like why the metaphysical, elements of this and this. And it's like, yeah, sure, I'm sure you could convince like, someone who's like a scholar, like some educated person in that field, but like the layman, like the average Joe in the street is gonna look at that weird and be like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's like you just call yourself anything. Like, but definitely I agree with what you're saying, more of a scientific route is better. But
hmm
what was I gonna say? Broji, hope you guys don't mind changing the topic, but are there any games you looking forward to coming out? Any games you'd recommend playing?
So it all depends on what you're into. So I really like multiplayer games. That's just something that I've always been accustomed to. I think the main reason why I'm more of a multiplayer person is because we only ever had one system, and majority of our games growing up were single player games, meaning that my brother, who was obviously older, would hog the system while I was just basically forced to just sit there and watch him play. So
As you should. Big brothers stay winning. Coming from a big brothers stay
no,
winning.
no, it fucking sucked. So like there'd be times where we stayed awake until my parents went to sleep, and my brother would be like, "All right, you keep watch while I play video games." And so I would literally fall asleep at the bottom of the stairs waiting for him to get off so that way then I could play. And oh man, it was absolutely terrible. If anyone who's a younger sibling understands.
Can't relate. I'm like an asshole saying that. I got 2 younger brothers, so it's always like that. But I remember when I was really little, what I used to do with them. We had wired remotes at the time to hook up in our Xbox 360. I would simply put it in, but not fully plug it in to make it look like it's on.
You
And
were
then
one of those
am I
people.
playing? Yeah, and then they'll be like, am I playing? I'm like, yeah, buddy, look at the screen right there. It'll be some NPC walking in circles. He's like, wow, I'm doing something. I'm like, yeah, bud, good job. And I'd just be playing my game. And then that always would stop him from running. He'd be like, Mom says my turn to play the Xbox, basically. But that was my go-to. I was that guy, yeah, for his older brother.
So like I understand like back then there weren't a lot of multiplayer games out there, and there was like Call of Duty, Halo was a big one. God, I pretty much think that's it. Whereas nowadays you have, I mean, there's so many different multiplayer games out there. There's Valorant, there's CS:GO, which are basically the same thing. League of Legends. Let's see, there's such a huge variety that I think you're starting to see more people not be like that.
I think my game, in terms of gaming, I'm a very much a online service sort of individual. I've been shackled to these implementations of um, drip feeding content to the audience. This continuous metamorphosis of the content over a long period of time. This means that I enjoy games like Dead by Daylight and Overwatch, who have been my go-to games. Every time I get off, I kick back and proceed to have a brain image as I ask myself, why does my Genji on my team have 17-3 as
What
a
rank are you
ratio?
in Overwatch? What rank are you in Overwatch? At your
Oh,
peak?
at my peak, I was a disgusting low bottom feeding silver. So like don't mind me. I'm not talking about as the top of the echelon.
Yeah,
I'm
Diamond
talking as
rank
somebody
1, baby. Yeah, I put.
diamond. Okay.
So there's only
What's your
3
main?
games in my life I have put over 1,000 hours in. One has to be Dead by Daylight. Second one has to be Overwatch, and the third one has to be Halo Master Chief Collection. Those are the
Uh,
only 3 games I possess where I have over 1,000 hours in those games. But
Who do you
that's
main?
who do I main? I main tanks a lot, so I basically learned how to play every tank. But I have a gold gun with just about every tank in that game
For a
because I've been
mercenary,
playing
sleep the
since.
goat.
Yeah, I've been playing since basically beta of Overwatch until like now Overwatch 2, which is dead. It's a dead game, but I only play it for nostalgia's sake.
I
But
think the game is still doing pretty decently in terms of like its player base. The only problem is that they promise a PVE, and it's definitely not
yeah,
living.
Diablo 4 fucking killed that, where they took their whole developer team and moved it to Diablo 4 instead. And they kind of pulled the plug on Overwatch too. Like, yeah, we're not gonna like update this at all. It's whatever. And then I'm like, wow, thanks, assholes. Like, really, really nice move, Blizzard.
The only thing I have a problem with is just here's the thing. If I spend money on something, if I trade you my shekels for a little bit, a smidgen of cosmetics, I just want my cosmetics. I don't want to have to grind for the thing I just put money to purchase to get.
I
Like
missed the
oh,
loot box system because I felt like that
I
was really
absolutely
fun.
do. Oh
It was
my goodness.
grimy, but it was at least fun. Like the absolute dopamine high you'd get when seeing a gold item fling out of a loot box. Like, oh, it's a legendary, and it's like, let's go.
It's truly, that was the only time period where you can respect someone doing the BJ face in one of them thumbnails. Like, oh my goodness, 32 open boxes and you get something nice. But in these games, the battle passes, I don't know who did it. Ooh, these
I hate
people who
battle
made
pass.
these battle
I
passes.
hate them.
The battle pass question is what we should be asking ourselves.
Oh yeah, Rosie, what's your opinion on the battle pass question?
like, what do we?
How I say it is if you have to pay to get cosmetics and whatnot, like you're pretty much saying like if you're poor you suck. Like
Yeah,
like
Yes.
I understand that it's a way for them to make more money, but man, I think in all my time gaming, I've maybe bought the battle pass in a game maybe 2 or 3 times.
To me,
okay.
this is the problem
Go
with
ahead,
battle
Hazy. I
passes.
gotta tell you a shameful story after this. Go ahead, Hazy.
It's like, oh, how do we get people to play the game for long periods of time while also getting them invested in all of the material we're making for a big game? I know we'll make a battle pass. So whereas if you wanted a cosmetic, not only are you not able to get that cosmetic immediately, but you have to grind for it. So we're forcing and mandating the amount of hours you have to play the game to get that thing you wanted. I love that about games. I know that some cosmetics cost like $5. I know some cosmetics cost like $20. But you know what? I would rather just pay that $10 and get the cosmetic I fucking wanted just to have it rather than have to go, oh, I bought the battle pass. Now I have to set aside an unfeasible amount of time just to get the fucking cosmetic I actually wanted because it's at the end of the fucking cosmetic wheel. And I work a whole job because I'm an adult who has to provide for themselves. Now I have to make sure that I push back a amount of time to make sure that I spend my money wisely and that this battle pass doesn't go out because then there's FOMO and oh no, I don't have this battle pass definitively. It's just for the time being. It's just for the possibility, just to get the smidgen of the crumbs. I'm sorry, it sounds like I'm having a fucking hemorrhage here and I'm about to go to a psych ward, but fucking holy hell, that was my fucking feeling when my first battle pass, and that's why I'll never do it again.
I've never heard you that angry before. Holy fuck. That was personal. That was deep.
I had a Vietnam flashback for a minute there.
Oh, good. So, fuck. I don't even know if I want to say this story on camera, but here it goes. So, I'm sure we're all familiar with the video game called Fortnite, correct?
Yeah.
So, I played it when it first came out, grinded it for like a good week, just so I could get a victory royale, basically, so I could take a picture for like, freshman year of high school to post on my Snap, be like, yo, I got a victory for now, guys. And then, didn't touch the game since. I enlisted in the military, I go through my thing, I end up meeting, a group of buds. One of these guys I would play video games with him every other day. Shout out Donnie if you're listening to this. And really cool dude. I consider him a brother to me, basically. He's a great guy. We ended up hopping games, and then he tried to get me into Fortnite. And at first I was hesitant, nah, I don't want to get into it. So he kind of persuaded me because all of his friends play it too. And we were playing that, and I'd always get bodied on myself. But when I played with him, he'd basically carry me. And it just made me feel good to be part of a team or something like that, although I was horrible. But here's where it gets worse. I didn't have a skin in the game, and apparently you needed a skin. So I'm like, alright, I'll go through the item shop. Oh, it's a Deadpool skin. Buys that. $20, that's a bit pricey. Oh well, all I need is that once. And then next thing they're asked, oh, you got a skin. Where's your glider? I'm like, what's a glider? It's oh, you need that now. So I had to buy the glider, and then piece by piece, oh, that's cool. Where's your pickaxe? I need to buy a pickaxe now? And I'm going through buying all these random things. And then it's just, I get hooked, and then I'm like, yeah, guys, I finally got set up. Meanwhile, all of them already switched all their skins and stuff like that. Oh, all three of us are rocking the same skin. Just buy this skin really quick. And it became addicting. It was like heroin to me. It was like collecting, Funko Pops, if you will. It's just, I couldn't get enough. I was like, I need more. So, me being a dumbass in the military, single, male, who's making, $1,000 a paycheck, just thinking, what can I spend my money on today? I know. Ding! And lo and behold, I got really deep in there. You guys want to guess how much money I spent on that cursed game?
No. Oh,
I'm gonna guess in the ballpark of 250.
Higher.
Oh god.
What?
I thought I was being ridiculous by saying 250.
I thought you was lowballing too. Oh no.
I spent. Go ahead, AZ. I want to hear what you're gonna guess.
Okay, I'm gonna guess a generous number. 485.
Higher.
Oh, jeez.
I spent $575 in that fucking game. And listen, this was my biggest financial regret in my life. Not even me being in a strip club blowing money equated to how much I've lost on this. And it's like Death 5000 cuts. You just don't notice. You're just like an addict. You're like, I don't have a problem. Just one more skin couldn't hurt. Oh, that's a real good pickaxe. Just one more couldn't hurt. And I'm just sitting here looking at my bank account what have I done? The Optimus Prime meme of Optimus just being what have I done? I'm just sitting there no. But yeah, I made a vow after that never to spend anything above $100 on a free-to-play game, basically. Because that shit gets you hooked, and it's bad, but
you spoke to something that the psychology of it all. It's that idea of incremental, small spinaches here, there. It doesn't seem like a lot when you first look at it because it's all just small, inconspicuous spinning. $3 for umbrella, gliders, pickaxes.
It makes you fit in. It makes you feel cool. I'm one of the boys. I got the loot they got, and it's just so addicting.
You didn't want to get bullied for wearing the default skin. You don't want to. What are you, poor?
You just make excuses for yourself. I'm like, fuck. And what made it worse, we were both in the military. We both got paid the same day, so he didn't know when I have money. He's like, hey man, did you just get a paycheck? Why don't you go ahead and, just a little off the top, just a little for this. I'm like, yeah, a little can't hurt. $50 in one day on bulk buying skins. Fuck. And I'm like, fuck, man, this adds up.
To be fair, there's nothing worse than being in a group chat with your boys, the guys, the amigos, and somebody being like, oh, that's from season 2. Oh, this nigga poor.
Oh no, that's
it's for nostalgia purpose. You trying to make yourself.
See, at least with Valorant, I can be like, "Hey, anybody got the skin? Anybody got the skin?" And then someone hopefully will fucking buy it for me.
Can I just say, I've never felt more soul-crushing agony and defeat than playing Valorant. Like, I should have known. Like, within a
I've never played Valorant. Is that game any good, or is it
Have
like?
you played CS:GO?
I have not played CS:GO either.
It's basically search and destroy, but with abilities.
Oh God, is it?
yes.
I'm guessing it's pretty addicting of a game.
Literally, that's the only way I've grown my community, pretty much.
Oh God.
Yeah, and I have almost 300 followers.
Oh gee, it was like that man grinding on
It's- but I'm gonna say this much, and if you're starting off now, this is what I'm gonna tell you. Do you find fun from the experience or for winning, Solus?
Me, I find it depends the game. There's some games like Dead by Daylight. I
I need
stopped
a
playing
hard
it.
yes or no for this.
Listen, man, it's hard to. I'm a competitive guy. I don't like losing.
Okay,
at anything,
okay.
So that's a yes for me
Then-
for winning.
Okay, I just want to make sure because if you're playing Valorant, there's nothing more soul crushing than getting just absolutely touched within a picosecond because you decide to look
God.
over the wall like,
Oh,
I got my
God.
angle set up. Maybe I should
Oh,
move
it's one
just
of
a
those
little
games
bit.
you wall peek and your head just gets flying off your body like
Yes.
Unironically.
It is the worst feeling ever. Either that or someone will wall bang you. Basically, they shoot through your wall or shoot through a wall, and you're sitting there like, how the fuck did he see me?
You know how you can see, like, you know how you have a room that is next to the kitchen. You can kind of see the kitchen through that like slit between the two walls. That's 90% of angles within the Valorant. That moment of let me just line up my shot and hopefully someone will come through this way. Otherwise, I'm going to get my face blown off.
Yeah,
The mistake I made was actually going, haha, I can just move around here because I got powers. Face gets blown off. Like who killed me? That's 90% of the. That's why I said, like, if you're playing for the experience, play something else. If you're playing to win, the Valorant's for you. You're gonna enjoy the grind of getting good in that game.
The worst part is when you're a low skill level and you do an unrated game and you're going up against the highest fucking ranked people out there.
Yeah, you think that unranked is like, oh yeah, this is not competitive. Like, oh no, this is what the people come to just like stomp and
I never understood that. I never understood that. Why people are so fucking sweaty and unranked. This was seen in like Smite. If you know what that game is, it's like bootleg League of Legends. I play that game religiously as well. And people would like, literally say in the title, casual. Or like, casual. And then people were like, wow, man, you didn't rotate 0.3 milliseconds earlier. I'm like, bro, you are literally changing your shirt per game. That's how much you're sweating right now. You have to remove articles of clothing to get a fresh one because you're just drenched in sweat. Like, it's not that deep, bro. It's casual. You're not losing rank here or anything. But
yeah, Valorant's pretty much the same way.
Oh god.
Unironically, it's one of those games you just like. One of the best mechanics in the game is that they decided that, like, hey, if guns really do have recoil. You can't Rambo in it. You can't run and gun. What are you playing a game for, like, imagination, for escapism? No. What happens here is that when you shoot, you are rigid. You are as firm as a mountain. As in, you lose all mobility when you shoot. So, whatever angle you have, you
check the wind, like the temperature outside in the game.
Yeah, like whatever angle you have, you better be comfortable with that because running away is not optional once you're in a gunfight. You can't just go somewhere else unless you use some particular abilities and all that. But then,
yeah,
I love how most abilities are just fucking sand dunes, and you're like, I hope I don't run into someone who just blows my head off. And it's a fun game, but man, was the first 2 weeks just like. I think I hate this game. I literally just said to myself, I was like, I don't think I like playing this. I think I hate everybody who involved with the creation of this game, but I do love Overwatch. I play Brig because I don't know what it is. I like playing characters that are kind of like have a difficult ramp and like close, and also a character that's a bit unconventional to how all the other game modes play. That's why I play Nurse and Dead by Daylight because they just kind of break the conventions of how the games ought to be played.
Man,
and
fuck you. Go fuck yourself.
I know. Yes, go ahead.
I hate you.
I get it all the times in the DMs. Go ahead, get out your system.
Oh god. All right, real talk now. I want to know Broji's opinion on this. What do you think is the most toxic gaming community?
League of
Either
Legends.
past, present, or future. Really,
League of
League.
Legends by
That was
far.
quick. Damn. That was
Yeah,
quick.
you can. It doesn't matter how many hours you have in. It doesn't matter how good you are. If you fuck up even the slightest, you have everybody on your ass. Like it doesn't like especially if you're a jungle. If you don't flank at the 0.1% less or perfect timing, you're gonna be like, oh man, we have a shit jungle. Like there's
Broji,
absolutely nothing you can do to make people happy unless you play the game
can I
absolutely
reinforce what you
perfect.
said there? What you just said there is so important because most games toxicities are often a culmination of who's to lay blame at. Usually, it's hard to lay blame at anyone else when you're playing a 2v2 fighting game because you're just blaming the mechanics or you're blame the character being cheap. And usually, people can just retort by saying you're just not that good, and therefore, the only way to circumvent characters like Deadshot from Injustice 2 is just to get better at the game, not nerfing the character because only people who were getting destroyed by him was filthy fucking casuals. But with games like League of Legends, the problem being here is that everybody's contributing is tantamount. It's like it's
Yeah.
tumultuous. Like if you die, you're feeding the characters. You're actually making them stronger. So if you don't know how to play a character, there is no such thing as hey guys, I want to try a new character out. Like to get the fuck back on your main. Everyone's gonna bully you to get back to the character you know how to play. They're like, please, I beg of you to do not. If there's a character that's meta, they're gonna tell you to not play any character that's not meta right now. Like, please don't do this to us. Don't do this to me. Like that's how bad it is. Since
Oh yeah,
so
I
much
learned that
of
the
what you
hard way.
do in League is so much connected to how the game's gonna play. It's like a flow. It's never like there's gigantic swings in terms of basically you can do one play that's going to win you the entire game. No, it's like an avalanche. If you start fucking up towards the beginning of the game, you prepare to be pounded for the rest of it. Like, well, we well, it was.
You
It was
better
good.
hope that your team can fucking carry you.
Hey, I play support in Smite, and I never played League, but I've heard it's very similar. I'm basically the tanky tank of the team, and it's usually the other way around. Yeah, Jungle is the guy who bullies people and he immediately blames everyone else. So
Yeah,
you
I
almost,
mean, you
yeah,
could always be like my cousin, and be like, "Goddamn lag."
no, it's just I can't stop a 3-man rotation on my ass. Like I just can't do anything there. And it's just like I just take it. I'm like, all right, sure, just keep bullying me. I'll keep covering you guys. But what do you guys think is an underrated toxic community? Like a toxic community nobody talks about much.
Ooh, that one's a little bit more difficult. You know, I'd probably say Halo. Like a lot of people don't think of Halo as being toxic, but if you do just bad enough, like you'll have everybody on your ass, but no one really thinks like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to go get sweaty on fucking Halo."
Yeah, that's really an old head game. Is what it seemed like today. And I hate to say that because I'm a big Halo fan, but
I mean, you're not wrong there.
yeah. What about you, Hazy? What do you think is like a underrated, like toxic community?
Oh, where'd he go?
Is he still in the space or is he just
Yeah,
muted?
he's muted.
Oh, okay. Oh, he said be right back. Okay, he has to go.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Let's see. For me, I'd have to say probably the Mortal Kombat community is very toxic, and
Ooh,
it
yep.
started around X because X had a thing called factions. So if no matter how good you were, let's say you had like some guys in your faction, like 3 or 4 people, and they were dog shit, it would bring you down and drag you down with them, basically. So let's say like me and you were on a team, you won 10 games and you lost 0. I won 5 games and lost 5 games. We'd equal out where it'd basically be 0-0 across the board. So your 10 games would be jack shit because I lost 5. And then that made a very toxic community by like how detrimental it was to lose a game, basically.
I can understand that.
Yeah. Really quick with just me and you. I'm curious, like, what do you think about the presidential race?
Ooh, so that's difficult. I feel like Trump is just narcissistic enough to either run from prison or run even if he doesn't win the primaries, which is it's gonna split the Republicans no matter what. I really hope Biden doesn't get elected again, especially not with Kamala Harris. Fuck, if he runs again, please just have him fucking change his vice president. Because I don't think America would really survive with a Kamala Harris presidency.
Oh yeah, she's just. You want to give me some reasons, like for the audience? Like I can already name a few, but like,
well, for one, her political policies are absolute trash. Like she can't speak to save her life. I don't know if you've seen some of her comments that she's made, but she'll be like, the reason A is so important is because A is so important.
What did you just say to me?
Right?
we're talking about presidential stuff, yeah.
It's like, are you actually going to say something worthwhile, or are you just speaking to hear your own voice?
Exactly. You're just talking and talk.
There are people that confident within conversation and discourse. Just to wrap up that little segment about video games, I really wanted to point out, have any of y'all, just one quick question I wanted to ask. Has any of y'all watched any tournaments or anything like that? Because
yep, I watched League of Legends tournaments.
Yeah, I actually really do enjoy watching tournaments. It's actually something I do when I buy a new game, because I'm usually like, okay, I'm at this level, but what can I be at if I really dedicate myself to it? And it's always amazing to watch that occur. Like, okay, I can do that if I actually get to experimenting. And Mortal Kombat X was the one game I genuinely played competitive because of the level of MacGyvering you could do with combos was one of my favorite elements of the game. So, was you somebody who watched any sort of competitive play in terms of tournaments?
Every now and then I'd watch like fighting tournaments, but that's really about it. And they come rare and few, like Tekken tournaments and stuff. But
Tekken is exceptional.
Yeah, I don't really watch like multiplayer games, if that makes any sense. I like the one-on-one games, not like team ones. But every now and then, like I'd have them on for background sound, but I can't like for my life let me like name a certain team or like certain famous person that plays it like that. If it makes any sense. But if it's like a fighting game, I can tell you all about that.
I can guess that everyone here has seen that moment, the Wombo combo, the beautiful moment, forever immortalized in gaming culture, where there's basically one player left in Super Smash Melee, in which he just completely bullied his one teammate off the map. Has everyone seen that clip?
Yeah.
That's one of the moments where you just deliberately kill yourself. Like, all right, dude, no.
Yeah, just walk away from the system at that point.
Oh yeah.
But going back with the presidential, to be honest with you, I don't know a whole lot about the other candidates. So as of right now, I'd say Ron DeSantis probably has my vote. I know a lot of people have issues with him, but that's because of I fully believe it's because of the media mistaking or like miscommunicating what he actually is proposing, such as like the "Don't Say Gay" bill. When in all reality, it's not a "Don't Say Gay" bill. It's a "Don't talk about sexual things that aren't age appropriate."
Yeah, I can see. I was actually talking to my friend, but I got a lot of family down in Florida, and a lot of them were Cuban, so have benefited pretty positively of him being governor down there. So I know Florida definitely is locked down for DeSantis if they ever did run. So I'm kind of interested to see how it goes. I think Trump, if he could put his ego aside, realize that he's doing more damage than good by like trying to run against DeSantis. It's just been doing nothing but division. And what pisses me off about Trump is he's using the Republican Party as like his vessel, and it's all about him. While like people before run as a Republican to make the Republican Party better, he just runs to make himself look good. And a lot of these Trump guys are like, yeah, we don't give a fuck about the Republican Party. We're only here for Trump. And like, yeah, you guys are doing a lot more damage than good to anything. It's just very frustrating and irritating to me.
Yeah, people who are extremely dogmatic for the party. But I do believe that DeSantis sometimes, when he's trying to be relatable, he does kind of come across as almost artificial. Like not artificial as in like AI, but like almost. Well, actually, if I'm being honest, it does kind of feel like he's trying to replicate how human emotions are supposed to be like. Him talking about his wife being pregnant, it was just the most bizarre moment. It almost sound like a. I think
He did what?
Yeah, he was talking about like basically a ultrasound, and they're like, "Hey, this is your baby here," and DeSantis says like, and then I touched her in the stomach, and I'm like, "Wow!" I'm like, "Why did you say it like that?" It was just the weirdest like way to be relatable, but he made it sound so alien nature. Like it was like the first time he had came across like human concepts. But I think him being a very fervent and very avident believer in keeping the state separate from like global conglomerates like Disney is a very good sign of a president having a backbone. And I think in those capacities, he's definitely shown himself to be someone that I do believe that conservatives should vote for. I don't know what's happening in terms of the fracturing of the party. There's definitely fanatics and dogmatic supporters of Trump as it stands currently, and I don't know what the party's going to look like in quite some time, because if they don't like alleviate that and like rectify those fanatics who are basically they don't have any political ideologies beyond Trump tells it like it is. I don't know what the party's going to look like in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I understand what you mean there. Fucking, it seems like Ron DeSantis really needs to work on his rhetoric, whereas Trump doesn't really care what he says when he says it. He just likes to be heard.
Yeah, it's just in politics too. I always see in politics as being an element is like you are giving yourself for the people, basically. Like to him, it feels like he's giving himself for himself, like a bigger platform for whatever he's doing. But yeah, I'm probably just gonna vote third party again. It's usually what I usually do.
You're the worst. So this guy is the worst.
Yeah, you guys just fucking dick. Like I vote third party. Yeah.
You're literally the nurse players of the fucking political process.
Look, I have this philosophy where I vote for a candidate who supports my values the most, and I don't personally compromise my own morals or beliefs for something. And if Republicans or Democrats want me to vote for their candidate, then get better candidates. I'm not going to keep compromising for like which is worse, shitty person A or shitty person B. Like, so I'm just going to do my own thing and vote third party because a lot of them, I can find a guy who has like a lot more in common with me. Even if he doesn't win, it's just like, the whole purpose of like democracy voting is like, oh, you have a choice in a vote. And I'm like, okay, I don't see my choice being limited to two people who are equally shitty. I'm going to vote for someone I want to vote to. Like, simple as that. It's like, it's how I always view it.
In the spirit of third-party voting, I'm going to vote for the paper shredder next week. The best part about the paper shredder is that it does two forms. Not only do I put my envelope in there, it also shreds it in process. It's metaphorically the same thing. But I do believe that, like, in terms of like where a lot of the fracturing is happening in terms of the Conservative Party, I really hope that they go for DeSantis. I really think he's like a more sensible. I think he has like genuine. Effort to win, and I don't know those indictments. Ooh, them spicy indictments for Trump. Them tasty like them tabs.
Yeah, Trump is being crucified right now, and I'm like, okay. And
Like
literally, all you fucking politicians are corrupt, and all of you guys do what he does. He just became a target because he stood against you. Like that's how I see it. It's just frustrating.
I don't think he's been as opposed to the system as people as I would like. I mean, to some degree, he definitely exploited the system. But in terms of
all of them do that now, so I'm saying
we're talking about blatant like transgressions to the system. Like, hey, these documents were like private, and I didn't like give the waiver to like make them unprivate to the public, but I took them anyway. Just blatant instances of like, hey, there's no gray area in terms of whether or not we're violating the law here. It is just as unequivocally, hey, I'm violating the law, and like I'm being caught with it. Like unequivocally speaking, like there's no debatable subsections of like laws or like conditions or conduct that is supposed to be described here. Rather, it's just like, hey, look at what we're talking about in terms of like what we're talking about, flagrant like violations of law. And I don't think we have a case in terms of terms that looks equivocatable in that regard. When we look at it and we say, hey, we have him on file and audible speaking about how I know this is a violation of what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm doing it anyway.
Mm-hmm. The worst part is that Trump had over a year to turn in the documents, but instead he was like, hey, we're going to hide them and be like, we don't have any documents. I don't know what you're talking about.
That was the weirdest moment of, all right, so we're just gonna we're gonna go there anyway, you know. But I really want to. It's gonna be interesting. I don't know if we're going to have Joe, Sleepy Joe the sequel. You know, I'm always. I'm not quite sure. I haven't done a lot of
He's
research.
running again.
I'm not quite sure.
He said a few months ago that he was going to run again.
Literally,
whether or not that changes because of his age, who knows?
I don't know. I in terms of some of the stuff that I've seen of him, and it's like, I think you've done an excellent job, man. You know, COVID vaccines have done a great job. You know, accelerating the Afghanistan despite somewhat of a questionable leave of it. I think it was good for in terms of like resting up the troops and finally putting that war to bed, and definitely helping out with the stimulus checks that was given out to people to ensure to cushion people for financial reasons. I think all of that was really in good favor. I don't know if another scoop of ice cream is going to help out the country here in the next coming up 4 years, because the concern of stringing together like words of coherent speech is definitely going to cause for more concern from people when like, I don't know, he is up there. I think I'm genuinely I'm interested in your perspective on this. What do you think it should be the cutoff state for like people who are up there? Like when I see McConnell just like zone out and become a frozen, like literally lag in IRL, I'm like, there has to be a cutoff date for these you guys.
I believe bring in terms. I don't. Yeah, definitely terms.
Like, what's happening here?
So I believe it should be all about your cognizance. Like, if you are mentally stable and able to get through a sentence, and have rational thought, I think that there's no real issue with you running for presidency. But as we can see with Biden, that he can't.
I watched McConnell. I watched McConnell, and I heard the AOL like load up like sound behind him. Like he went up to the podium and all hell was. I'm like, did this man just log off mid sentence? What's happening right now? But yeah, I think in terms of like it's definitely going to be in terms of where you guys are at politically speaking in terms of the runnings for the race. Who do you think beyond DeSantis for the Democratic Party? I never get to ask, since usually I don't get
Jr. I'd say. RK Jr. for Democrats if they were going to try to find someone else. But me personally, if Joe Biden hypothetically in this dystopian world wins again, he's going to die in office and Kamala Harris is going to be president. And that's going to be a reality I don't want to be in. Like,
I'm right there with you. We think that Biden is bad because of his age. Kamala Harris is in a decent age. She just isn't cognizant enough to at least Biden has an excuse. What the fuck is Kamala Harris's excuse?
All I currently hear is no one wants to see a strong black mixed race woman be a.
Oh God!
Oh yes, I'm doing it. Oh yes, I'm doing it today. Today is the day. But I would love. I can't wait to see. To be honest, I'm always interested in these preliminaries. I'm getting a lot of feedback right now. Is someone's mic open or something like that?
Oh, sorry about that. Let me one mic.
I'm always interested in these preliminaries that are usually going on around this time. It's usually a great time to scout out the fields. Maybe we get Andrew Yang the sequel. He was really for the people. You know, he was really in touch with jobs and the ever encroaching advancements in technology that would make a lot of hard labor obsolete. So maybe we'll get that guy in. You know, maybe he'll be back. And maybe, and just maybe, if we pray upon a star. Bernie, you know, the Bernie boys make it back, you know, the Empire Strikes
God.
Back. The Burns,
Bernie
the
is
Burns.
never gonna win.
Beanbags, bro.
He older than Biden or like same age as him? I thought he was older than Biden. Like I know he's like a walking corpse too.
I mean, at least he's cognizant. I'll give him that much.
True, actually, that's the you know, he's very articulate, you know, he's really for the people there. But in terms of the podcast, we really had some enjoyment having you on. But if I was to ask you, since you're into the spirits and you know you enjoy debates, what would be a debate you would want to see? Solus and you know, my boy here, what would you want to see? Who would you want to see debate each other currently if you could arrange that debate? And
Oh,
what
I know
would-
people who like want to arrange for a debate.
You know, I'm still pretty new into the debate sphere that I wouldn't really be able to give you a good answer on that one. A topic that I think would be really good, and I believe Andrew Yang actually is the one where I'm getting this idea from. I believe he said that we should allow the first, basically to get your associate's degree to be free, but any schooling you want to do after that, you have to pay for it yourself. And I think that is it's a way to get us more educated, make college and secondary schooling a lot more affordable, as well as making it so that way then our fucking general education doesn't sink down below every other country.
I agree in that. That's fair enough. I really,
All right.
Andrew Yang is a nice guy. We had one of his dudes on our podcast a few episodes back. Really like to get him back on. But yeah. Broji, I appreciate you being on Requiem Radio, my brother. Is there any closing words or anything else you want to say before we wrap up today?
The biggest thing I have to say is, you know, nowadays we're seeing a lot of division in the political sphere. It's either you're right, I'm wrong type of thing without actually being able to have a general discussion. You know, our country was founded on freedom of speech, and that's something that we should absolutely focus on.
Well said. Well said. Hazy, you got anything you want to say before we closing out?
Well, Broji told me he was typing out like one of those hackers in the 90s, trying to get through the firewall that's encrypted in Portuguese about how much Bunk was a bitch. And I was like, whoa, bro, you can't tell me this in private. Like, I'll have to air it out in the podcast. But, you know, if these two titans were to collide, I would love to see it. I would love to see a debate between these two individuals. But beyond that, I'm Hazy Dialects, and you've seen this all in HD.
Yeah, hell yeah. And Bunk, if you see this, man, all love, no hate, but you know, I think you should hit up. Yeah, just hit up Broji, man. What's it? Also, if you're listening to this, looking forward to our vegan debate. If it hadn't happened yet, but in the future, that should be enjoyable.
I'm looking forward to that crushing.
Yeah, well, I'm Sola Requiem. You have Hazy Dialect in HD, and you have Broji. Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
At a professional level. And to me, that was my big thing. And obviously, I stopped believing it because I grew up, basically. Like, I don't have to explain it in a different way. And, like, I don't think random people are just eating flesh because they're bored. But that was something that had me freaked out for the longest time in my life.
Why did you have to use the phrase tainted meat? My brain immediately went to Walking Dead. Like, y'all eat tainted meat.
Bro, I just got to that
Tainted
episode
meat.
recently.
Y'all eating tainted meat.
No, I just see that episode recently too. That shit was hilarious. He said, "Yo, some dumb you some dumb idiots." And then he reviews like pulls his shirt back and you see a huge like chunk. He's like, "I'm tainted meat," and I'm like, ah. But
When he
yeah,
said it, he said, "Y'all eating tainted meat. Y'all."
no, when the guy from Everybody Hates Chris showed up in the show, that threw me in for a wrench. I'm like, "Oh, I know you." I was like, "Where have I seen this guy for?" I'm like, "Oh, he's from Everybody Hates Chris."
Yes,
Not
everyone
the
hates
guy who
Chris.
died. Yeah, not the dude who was eaten, but the other dude who shows up later, our black guy.
Yes.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, but that was my creepy conspiracy. If you guys, yeah, any question, comments, concerns?
No, like, this is an easy one that you could have debunked even as a child. You just been like, okay, I need to know the prices of, the human meat omelet. Because, like, if it's just regular price, like, no, I'm not buying that. Like, if this thing isn't, like, at least, I don't know, 50 times more expensive, it just makes no sense why it would be human flesh. Because, like, aren't they taking a tremendous risk in serving it? And so you'd only have it available to the people who are, like, already in the know who would get it. Like, I don't know.
But
Well, that's
that's the
what
thing.
I'm wondering.
That's the thing. Here's the thing that I find to be so interesting about like conspiracy theories. At the same time, when it comes to conspiracy theories, it's like the symbolism is all there. At the same time, all evidence of a conspiracy theory is also simultaneously speaking evidence of possible deniability. That's like the always the thing that they go with. Like almost every evidence, like if you ever believed in any sort of even the conspiracy theory I believed in, it's like, oh, Drake is showing you that he's part of Illuminati because he chose the owl, and it's like, oh shoot, that's true, owls in the dark hour, oh shoot. But at the same time, you could just ask yourself, like, what if he just likes owls? Like, what if he just likes it? But
Oh man, what if you'd been a kid like at that same age, like during all that Travis Scott Astro World shit like last year, you'd have been fucking wilding out just
my
Oh,
mind would have been
no,
melted.
oh, there's a portal
bro,
now.
yeah, I was like, I saw one. I was like, Astral World is like basically a sacrifice to like Baal and Satan, and that's why the Stampede was like organized and planned. Like, you need sacrifices for like the Dark Lord. And I'm like, what the fuck?
the
Just looking
reason
at
why
that.
the reason why I have skits like it's partially a joke. Now I do it just for joking, facetious reasons. But like schizo SES is like actually like a callback to like some of the things I used to write about artists back in the day and just things of that nature. Like it was like not in terms of like my leftist political Twitter account, but it's in terms of just like if I was like if I was younger while the Travis Scott stuff happened, I'd be like, oh, don't you guys understand? He had a song called "No Bystanders." What do you think that meant? Obviously, at the Asher world, he's sending them to another world, and he's talking about the party never ends. He's talking about the end of your life, the afterlife. Then it's like he was like, oh, bro.
Nah, don't get me fucked up like that now. It's too late. I want to fuck. No, what's it called? Let me pose you guys an interesting question. Now, let's do the reverse. Is there anything before you thought like, oh, there's no way people conspiracy theory about this? It's like undeniable, and then now you're like, wait a minute, I think people are onto something. Like, do you guys have a flip thing where something you like adamantly hated against, but then now you're like, oh fuck, like just thinking.
Oh, dude, I have so many. I mean, for starters, I would say JFK. Like, that's one where I was definitely just like, yep, we Harvey Oswald acted alone. There's no reason to believe otherwise. And then again,
Low
just
key,
getting
wait,
more
low
information,
key,
you're like, oh
low key.
man, I
You
don't
you
think
kind
that's
of
true.
spit it on that one when he
No,
did the
he
whole.
literally would have. It would have required him to break a world record by like fucking meters, like over like 30 meters, for him to land that headshot from the position he was at. There's no way. There's just no way. I'm like, all right, sure. Like, he's not like American Sniper over here. It's just not impossible. Like what they were describing. I agree. Like Lee Harvey Oswald, I don't think he killed him.
even accepting Lee Harvey Oswald, I was just like, there was a lot of moments like your face just stretches out and contorts in some sort of mimetic edit of itself. When the guy says I'm a patsy and gets gunned down immediately afterwards, you go, very weird circumstances. Indeed. It really activates your almonds, you know. It really makes you go, okay, that's kind of weird. That's it's hard to just take that at face value of what's going on there. So in terms of is there any other conspiracy theories that I think about like constantly that I was like, hmm, I didn't initially think that highly of them? No, that's really it for me. In terms of conspiracy theories, I really wasn't big on that. I was really in the trenches for like a majority of like conspiracy theories against like the celebrities and the higher ups and the funniest. I'm glad I never got close to the whole slanted look, cock shame. You know those pictures where they're super analyzing someone's
No,
pose.
isn't that that's like looks maxing and shit like that, right?
Yes,
Like,
my
what does that
favorite
even
part.
mean? What does looks maxing mean? What I don't get what these guys are talking about.
My
I'm like,
favorite
dude,
one.
just yeah, fuck. Just don't be ugly. I don't know what to say. Like,
But it's just the idea like there's a psychology to someone's pose, like oh, feeble man slant, beta male look. And then no matter what picture, they'll just point to the genitalia and be like cock shave. I'm like,
no, I'll
what
look
is
at shit
cock
like
shave?
no, no, I'll look at something like the Virgin and the Chad meme comparison. I'm like, haha, funny meme. And I'll see another guy be like, holy shit, this is my entire life in this one image. I'm like, bro, what? It's like, yeah, don't you see? This is like everything in society. I'm like, yo, man, it's not that deep. It's just a fucking meme. And he's like, no, I need to start looks maxing now. I'm like, okay, like I'm confused. You lost me.
Yo, have you guys ever? You know what really melts my brain in terms of like just content online? I'll never understand it. Just any Sigma male content, and anytime it happens, anytime it pops up on my like account, I just exterminate with extreme prejudice. I block the channel and everything.
Funny as
It is
fuck,
the most
man. I like the trillion.
nebulous concept. It is the most nebulous concept. It's like when you look at the rules for what it means or what it takes to be a Sigma male, it's everything and anything. So it's like
It's just so vague of a concept.
it literally is. It's the most vaguest of things. You oh, Sigma males are very social and can be around anybody, but they prefer not to. So they're antisocial. But if they were to do so, they would be the top of the social hierarchy. Okay, cool. I'm at the top of the social hierarchy because I delude myself into thinking as much. It's like you can be the greatest human being in existence without actively doing anything. It's like
Yeah, I mean, it's like
Yeah.
any of this shit. Like, it doesn't even matter. But I mean, Sigma's probably the worst offender. But like, it's just a fucking horoscope. It's just like I can read
it is a
whatever I want
horoscope.
my own
It's
personality
fitting.
into this. But like, more than that, like I can. One of the most cringe like things that you can do, I think, is like try to look at characters from movies and not only be like, it's me for real, but like, say like, oh, this is the ultimate like Sigma mindset or the ultimate like alpha mindset. It's just like you're missing the point, man. It's a fucking movie. Like, please just like you don't even have to touch grass, but just touch anything like that's in the physical realm because this is not fucking it at all. And you need to get the fuck offline right now.
I would say go touch a woman, you'd probably end up in fucking jail for that. For guys who are like that out of the world.
Yeah, literally do anything but touch a woman. Do not do that. Like you need to work up to that, man. Walk before you run.
No, but jokes aside,
Speaking of which, wait. Speaking of which, I want
Cillian
your
Murphy.
opinion on all this. Just
What's
wanted
up?
to just ask you this, since we never really touch on the nuclear bomb topic, I thought bringing forth the most mega mind, the intellectual level of galaxy level, he's like next to Mr. Pixelittle in terms of like his IQ level. So I thought it was important to bring him forth in terms of this discourse. And you recently saw the movie, so you're hyper like energized to
Oh my
discuss
god,
this
that
subject
movie
matter.
was
Uh,
fucking
and so
beautiful.
I thought I'd get your opinion on this tweet that I'm about to read out to you. So let's chat it up a little bit. He says, amazing coincidence that the nuclear bombs were invented during only war to ever definitely 100% require nuclear bombs to be dropped to end it, and we never needed to use them before or since. Inside a month from testing to a single use require. What luck? What do you think about that?
Funny
Is the
enough,
guy saying that nuclear bombs don't exist?
yeah, I know it's that guy. It's the no bombs never existed theory, which is like if that's true. Explain fucking Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You're telling me like nearly 500,000 people just disappeared? Like I don't know.
Then he says the following. Somebody responds to him by saying this: yes, they were needed. It was the only way to bring Japan to an unconditional surrender, and that was the only way for the war should have ended. Not a conditional surrender, but a complete, unequivocal, unconditional surrender. And then the other person that made the OP responds with the following: it didn't do that though, so I guess they failed.
I can't fix stupidity, man. I don't know what to say to that.
It's
Like
just the most. I can't help you. I don't know where
that
you're
is
at
the
right now,
second
but I
most.
can't help
That
you.
is, that is the second most baffling take I've ever seen on social media regarding Oppenheimer and like the nuclear bomb. Definitely second. Ugh.
This is a classic moment of like complete delusion, butting up against like a little bit less delusion, right? So like you got this first guy, and simply just be, they don't exist, and who knows? Like I'm always skeptical of this sort of discourse because it's like same with like a lot of flat Earth people. It's like, do you genuinely believe this, or like are you just like are you just going for like clicks or whatever or replies, or you just memeing, you just trolling, anything. But like let's assume he's genuine. Like the person responding to them, it's equally as absurd, right? Because they're just parroting the same thing that we've heard before, that every single one of us read in our history textbooks, as kids. This was the most efficient, optimal way to end the war: unconditional surrender by dropping the nukes. We didn't want to do it, but our hand was forced, essentially. And it's like, well, we know that's not true. Like, in fact, our own uh, it wasn't the Air Force because I don't think they had the Air Force at the time, right? But it was the U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey in 1946. Assessing all of the damage that had been done, on Japan, like the tactical and strategic assessments, and being like, yeah, actually, these bombs were unnecessary. We did not have to drop them. We could have continued just, regular bombing runs with, non-nuclear bombs, and we probably would have achieved like the same result without, like the massive land invasion that, people always point to when they say all of the lives that were saved. And so it's just like, yeah, it was not like a one or the other. It didn't have to do either a massive invasion that would have killed, or ended the lives of however many U.S. soldiers. It was not a simple question of either or, and the fact that people don't even know that and they're just fed this one singular line, I think is an issue.
They're giving this weird ultimatum that's void from reality that there's only, we do this or this, which is like I don't know if that's like people just trying to cover up for like, hey, there was more options, we just want to like do this or not, but definitely no, I'd 100% watch Oppenheimer. I think that's Christopher Nolan's greatest movie ever, even better than Dark Knight Rises. It was just insane. Like I've You'd rarely hear me say this, but that was a movie with a finale that brought me to tears. It was that well done of like a historical drama. But it's definitely just a lot of it. People, I walked in thinking the movie's just gonna be like, oh yeah, dropping an atomic bomb, but majority of it was like asking the question of like scientists being like, what should we do it? Just because we could, should we? Should we help, United States? There's like a lot of morality in there. There's even Einstein weighing his opinion on some things because he take walks of Oppenheimer privately. It was just very deep and like complex on that, and it just there was such a fucking brutal scene after the bombing. Oppenheimer is able to meet President Truman, and Truman at first has this very war pig esque demeanor where he's like, "Yeah, we really took care of those Japs. Good job." And you just have Oppenheimer sitting there quietly, and he basically says to him, "I have blood on my hands." And Truman's response was taking a handkerchief out of his blazer, like, jacket, and throwing it at Oppenheimer and saying, "You don't have blood on my hands. I dropped the bomb, not you." And then he gets Oppenheimer to leave, and then while he's leaving, he tells, like, you hear him say, "I don't ever want to see that weak crybaby in my presence again." People who don't
This is
know
a real
Oppenheimer,
exchange that happened.
yep, that was a real
Like,
exchange that happened.
100% true. It's not dramatized at all.
No, that's what I love about the movie so much. Like, a lot of it is down to the T. These things did happen. Like, there's quotes in it. Like, these are things Oppenheimer said. These are things, these individuals said. And when I say, like, it's a historical drama, I'm not saying, like, it's, like, void from loosely based on true story. It's very to the T detail. Christopher Nolan does an extremely well job on that. But, yeah, 100% encourage people to check it out. It's very gut wrenching watching that movie. It's not what you'd expect. It's not just about the atomic bomb. It's a lot more than that.
So the real question becomes, though, if we didn't drop the bombs on them because it was the only option we had to end the war in the way that we did, then why did we drop them?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
If the reason was not, for the quick, unconditional surrender of the Empire of Japan, then what was the reason that we did?
I have no idea what that
Oh, I
person
got
thinks.
this.
Oh, but I just like what you said, Solus. I'm gonna let you speak, but I thought it was interesting that you brought up very much that someone could give a convincing argument when you set up such weak confines. It's like, yes, because we 100% absolutely needed them. It's like, well, that again is probably the part that people would consider to be debatable. But also when you say that um, never used them before or since, that would kind of go against the creation of something. Like if something was to shoot somebody with, like a gun, are we arguing that it no longer exists? I don't know what that even means. But like, does a gun no longer exist because the first time I ever used one is in that one particular moment of self-defense and never use it again? Can we now question the existence of that gun? It doesn't exactly make any sense.
But it's not. We're not talking a gun. We're talking about a weapon that could bring global annihilation.
I get that, but
Never
I'm just
in
saying, like,
the
if
history of
we were to
man have we had
compare,
such capabilities. You know.
no, I'm just saying, like, if we compare, like, if we're drawing an analog here, like, okay, like, hey, like, does that make much sense for us to make that like argument? Like,
I don't know. It'd be a difficult argument to make, and that's a topic they bring up in the movie. But I'm not going to go heavy in spoilers or anything. But like, start of the movie was just showing like Oppenheimer coming up to be who he was, like the scientist. Middle portion was the government coming to them, being like, "Hey, we got this sweet gig called Manhattan Project. You on?" And all the scientists are hyped up, thinking like, "Yeah, we're gonna make this big thing for America. We're gonna like destroy our enemies. We're gonna do." They're like really hyped, like we're gonna be the big face of like with science and stuff. And then the final act was like post bomb. It was them like realizing the consequences of their action type thing. But before that, there was like scientists like leading up like, "Hey, should we do this?" But a very brutal, gut wrenching scene because you as the audience, you're like following them. You're kind of agreeing. I'm like, yeah, let's bomb these people. Let's get them. Let's win the war. And then there's a scene where he goes into like an auditorium where there's a crowd full of people, and he's kind of just delusional out of it because he just got word that there was a bomb dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He's sitting on a podium, and then there's waves of people, and they're all clapping, cheering, chanting. It's almost like they want more, more, more. Just like grotesque and like gluttonous and like violence, if that's the best way to describe it. And he's just sitting there out of it, and gradually the scene just gets brighter and brighter and brighter. And he's saying like, "Yeah, we did it, guys. We did it. America won." And then out of nowhere, the bright just becomes so unbearable until it's just all you hear is like background noise, and you see the entire audience, their skin begins to melt and peel and like drop off. And then he's alone in a room, a giant auditorium by himself with just nothing but literally the sins on his hand, like the consequences on his head. Like, this is on me. I dropped the bomb. I did this. And that having that scene right before the Truman scene was so impactful because it showed you the movie did such a phenomenal job of showing you the absolute weight that he had to bear and carry that. Like, I know people make memes online saying things like, "Oh, I'm Oppenheimer. I'm gonna make a bomb. Oh no, I'm so sad I made a bomb and killed people." It's a lot deeper than that, and it's especially with him being Jewish and coming to America, and that was something that pushed him into the Manhattan Project. It's just like, I don't know. It's just such an interesting thing right now. But sorry, guys, I'm not trying to get into spoilers. That was just like light thing I had to touch on. It wasn't heavy spoilers. Yeah, but yeah, my bad if I was going in too deep in territory.
It's interesting, like, because the thing that, yeah, that conversation with Truman did happen, right? But the thing that, like, ultimately does get Oppenheimer ostracized, from that commission and being part of nuclear weapons development is his opposition to, thermonuclear weapons and the development of the hydrogen bomb, right? So it's like even a few years after that, it's not until he really starts to voice, his uh, extreme like disavowal of, developing thermonuclear technology and weapons that he just like pushed to the side. Which
Not
I think
only
speaks
that, but his
volumes.
communist past too, because he had a lot of communist affiliation. And after World War II, the McCarthy era, they used that to like basically, use him as a scapegoat to make him shut up, if you will.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think like the real question you should ask yourself here is like, is this a chicken and the egg situation? Like, which one came first? Like the fact that he was very convenient to discard once he starts saying all these things, and then you can just fucking, you can red bait and fucking, castigate him as a communist, or was it the fact that he actually was, and that's where they're concerned? But no, that's fucking bullshit. I mean, if that were the case, they never would have had him anywhere near these development projects to begin with. It would
No,
have
of course,
literally
I
caused him.
100% agree with you. It was just a witch hunt to make him shut up because
Well,
the United States government openly admitted they knew he had communist sympathies and affiliations before getting him on the Manhattan Project, but they saw him as being such a valuable asset. They needed him. And the moment he served his purpose and use, they basically threw him away because he wasn't willing to play game with the war pigs. Because after the atomic bombing, they're like, okay, what's the next big bomb? Are we doing this Hydra thing next? And then he advocated against it. So like, oh, so you're not going to help us? Yeah, we're going to throw you away now. And they tried stripping him of all credibility just because of like something in his past that it's like, hey, you were okay with it then, but magically you aren't now. But I don't know. It's just something interesting to think about.
yeah, and I mean, like, correct me if I'm wrong on the timeline in this, but I'm pretty sure that's several years after the war is already over that they start like
Yep.
seriously developing that technology, and he starts voicing his opposition. So it's like if you really did have concerns about like his communist affiliation, then you would have been voicing that, like, not necessarily at the beginning of the Manhattan Project, because like, I mean, at the time you're ostensibly aligned with the communist USSR anyway. So it's like, okay, whatever, like that's not as big of a deal. But once the war is over, like obviously there's an immediate pivot, towards antagonism with the USSR. So that would have been the moment, to do it. But it's like, no, he's obviously still quite useful. He's a, brilliant physicist, and like he can provide all this value, and of course he does, up until that moment where he's like, wait, no, hold on, like the yields of like a hydrogen bomb thermonuclear weapons is going to be like you know, 1,000 times greater, like several orders of magnitude, than these fission weapons. So I don't think we should do them. They're like, get the
Not
fuck
only
out of here.
that, but it was proven after the McCarthy. Well, no, it was proven during the McCarthy era. The thing that kickstarted it. One of the members of the Manhattan Project, a foreigner they brought, I believe he was a German guy who was Jewish that Hitler basically excommunicated. Well, Hitler's trying to kill, so he goes to the UK, and the UK brings him to America. But he ended up being a spy and donated a lot of the research they're doing to the USSR because the earlier project they were debating, should we make the atomic bomb or should we do the hydrogen bomb? And they scrapped the research they had for the hydrogen bomb, but it was still research. And then within the next 3 months, they're like, huh, what a weird coincidence. The USSR is currently making this thing called a hydrogen bomb. And they're like, well, who told them? Because we're the only people on the planet that knows this research. But it was that, but even still, none of that was proved. They proven none of that had to do with, Oppenheimer. And like you said, I was just trying to slander him and get him out of spotlight, if you will. But
And they certainly did. It's wild when you see like the lengths that people will go to. I mean, Einstein was like not similarly discredited, but like almost similarly, right? And a lot of it is because he had similar oppositions, but just to the original development of nuclear weapons to begin with. And yeah, it's crazy like when you think about like what it actually means to go up against like the war machine, but like from an ideological perspective, as someone who would be critical in developing like the most deadly weapons ever created by man.
it just, yeah, I don't want, like I said, I don't want to spoil much, but please, anyone listening to this, for the love of God, please go watch the Oppenheimer movie. It is the one of the best movies ever, especially for the history buffs listening. Very enjoyable. But I think, go ahead, Ernest.
Nothing. I was just gonna say, yeah. I wasn't necessarily planning on seeing it, but yeah, I think after hearing you describe like how good it is, I think I might go take a peek.
Nice. Yeah, definitely not going to be watching Barbie on Monday, the 24th. Yeah, this is at specifically 8 p.m. So don't worry about that. I'm totally not going to be doing that. Also, yeah, I think honestly that should wrap out just about everything. Do we have any closing things, Hazy? You want to bring us out with?
Now, this has been an excellent conversation. I've been Hazy Daleks, and you've seen this all in HD.
Honestly, yeah, one of our best podcast episodes so far. I'd say, yeah, Ernest, you're more than welcome to come back.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here and happy to come back anytime.
Really quick before we go, Ernest, is there any social media platforms you want people to check you out at? Anything outside of anything?
Do not look for me. Do not follow me. Do not acknowledge my presence whenever you see me.
I respect it. I respect it.
If you see me in public, pretend like you didn't. He
Yeah, I
said,
was
no, you
like,
didn't.
I am just merely a hallucination. But yeah, well, guys, you've been tuning in to Requiem Radio. You could find us on Spotify and soon to be the Apple Store. So thank you very much for listening. Have a good rest of your night.